Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Ross Rundown. I'm your host, Matt Errolson. Alongside with me, of course, Bram Fall. Now, I know I had a good week. I saw some Carolina basketball up close. How about yourself?
I did. I have had a good week.
Good. So, speaking of that, since I was at the game, what was it, Tuesday night,
Yeah.
Wednesday night? I've lost track of it. Tuesday night. Of course, got to see them play Syracuse, so I figured we'd start here with some ACC
right.
basketball.
Perfect.
So, currently, after that win, the Tar Heels ended up winning 93-85. We'll talk about that game here in just a minute. That same night, though, Duke lost.
My second favorite team.
Yes. So, as we currently sit right now, the ACC 1, 2, 3 is Virginia and UNC tied at 13-2 now. Duke at 12-3. So, as of right now, who's the best team in the ACC? You're not gonna hurt my feelings if you don't say the Tar Heels.
Well, I would have to say Virginia.
Yeah.
Although the matchups are a funny thing because Virginia seems to have Carolina's number here lately, and Duke has Virginia's number. So it all depends on matchups. Carolina's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just depending on the night and depending on how the shots are falling down, really. I mean,
Yeah.
they're that even. I mean, they're so top-heavy. Those three are so good, and everybody else is not quite as good.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I
Yeah.
only listed these three.
Yeah.
After that, it was Virginia Tech, who's like 12-5 or 11-5, something like that. Technically still in it, maybe, but with only 3 games left, it's going to come down to
Yeah.
one of these two. And we see this in the ACC every year. These teams just beat up on one another. I compare it to like the SEC West of football.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a grind throughout the whole season. Whoever comes out on top deserves a number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So, real quick. So, of course, I got to go to the game, Carolina versus Syracuse. Since I'm a Tar Heel fan, I'm going to talk about it.
That's right. Awesome.
One thing that I noticed that concerns me moving forward, I know that Carolina's on a streak right now, one of the hottest teams in the country. They took a lot of three-pointers, though, Tuesday night, and that had me and my buddy worried that they're taking so many shots because a lot of them just didn't fall.
Yeah.
Do they need to break away from that and start trying to feed some of these big men, or is this just the way the game is now?
Well, a lot of teams love the three, but the majority of the scoring against Duke was pounding the ball inside, getting in the lane.
Exactly.
They dominated Duke in the paint.
Yeah.
And they shot a lot of jumpers against Syracuse, but a lot of those jumpers didn't go in. A lot of the same thing. I still think you have to work the ball inside.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to you got to be able to pound it inside and score because those jumpers don't fall every night.
Absolutely. And to me, I'm not saying they should just stop taking threes by any means, but it's kind of like in football where you run. The defense gets used to that, then you throw it over their heads.
That's right.
You pound it inside. So then they leave men sitting out there on the three-point line to shoot open threes. Do it that way.
Yeah. See, White in particular, a lot of them, and Williams too, they fall in love with that little step back, fall away three, and it just drives me nuts because not a lot of them are going in.
Yeah.
Like you said, White was the most effective. He played a great game the other night.
Sure
but
did.
He was most effective when he's driving, taking the little shots in the lane and dishing. And then, like you said, that opens up the good look. I don't have a problem with three-point shots.
Right.
But they got to be good looks.
Yeah.
We can square up.
I agree 100%. And, against Duke, Zion not being there obviously opened it up a little bit inside. Syracuse doesn't have anybody of that caliber to stop Carolina from putting
And
it
neither
down
do
low.
most teams. I mean,
No.
Luke May was a preseason All-American. Give him the ball.
Yeah. He had a good game, too. I think he's averaging 15 and 10, which kind of surprised me a little bit. It shouldn't, but it did. I don't know if he reached double digits, but Cam Johnson did. It was a good game. They got the win. A win is a win.
right.
I just, at this point, you're starting to look towards March Madness.
That's right.
With, March now upon us.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we're looking forward here. As I mentioned, Virginia 13-2 in the conference. They still got Pitt at Syracuse and home against Louisville.
3 wins.
That sounds like 3 wins to me.
Yeah.
So then, of course, Carolina's got at Clemson, at Boston College, and then the big matchup again to finish the season with Duke. Speaking of the Blue Devils, they finish out with Miami, Wake Forest, and then, of course, come to Chapel Hill. So how big is this last game matchup between the Blue Devils and the Tar Heels?
I tell you what, to me, that sounds like 3 wins for Virginia, although anything can happen. Not knocking the other 2 teams, but those should be 2 wins for Carolina.
Yeah. It should be wins for all of them,
that's right.
except to when it comes to that Duke UNC game.
Carolina-Duke game is a toss-up, and you just don't know who's going to be on that night. If Zion's back and they're hot,
yeah,
I like their chances.
You know what? Let's talk about that because, we talked last week about how Zion came out of that game. We didn't know at that point how long he's going to be out. He still hasn't played yet.
I know.
So
that's
a discussion that me and my buddy had with some strangers because we just talked to everybody at Carolina games was, will Zion even come back? You know, and I know that's a discussion we've had on the show already, but I mean, the longer he sits out, because obviously he's not going to go back in if he's not ready healthy-wise. What do you think?
Well, you wonder who's in his ear because he's listed as day-to-day.
That's exactly what I said. Who's in his ear?
That's right. And you know he's got to have somebody telling him it wouldn't be a good idea for you to play because if he's truly day-to-day, I mean, he's probably physically ready to play.
Yeah. And I don't know if he's practicing. He may be, for all we know. But that's not playing in a game. And you have to – this is a predicament that not many players have to deal with. But because Zion is this bigger than basketball type thing, almost a LeBron circus around him, you know, with that he has to deal with the people in his ear that are saying, don't go back. You're risking tens of, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars at this point, you know, with shoe deals and all that stuff. Or – you have to go into that locker room and look your teammates in the eye and say, I'm not going to play anymore, and then, of course, deal with that. So, I don't know. It's like you said, whoever's going to be the loudest in his ear is going to make that decision for him. So, talking about the ACC, though, obviously, as we sit right now, not that it necessarily matters, but Joe Lunardi has Virginia and Duke still on the one line. He's also got Gonzaga and Kentucky. Now, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, with us having beat Duke already. But I know we talked last week that Carolina could potentially get on the one line. But is there any chance, depending on what happens here, that Virginia, Duke, and North Carolina, that we have 3 ACC teams all get 1 seeds?
If it happens, there will be a lot of people complaining about ACC bias.
Yeah.
But if you look at the top 5 in the country right now, ACC has three of the top 5 ranked teams. And it's not inconceivable that all 3 of those could be a number 1 seed, particularly if somebody else in that top 5 loses.
Exactly.
I mean,
and here's the thing. Like I mentioned, Virginia's 13-2. Let's say they finish out 16-2. They win that. North Carolina would finish, assuming that they beat Duke. Let's do that. They'd finish the same. Of course, Virginia would have the tiebreaker, and then Duke would be right behind them. But Duke would have beaten Virginia twice. We would have beaten Duke twice and beaten Gonzaga, who's also up there. So I'm just trying to figure out who you leave out.
So if that scenario played out, like you said, if Virginia went 1 out and Carolina 1 out, they would put Duke with 2 losses to Carolina, which would hurt them. But let's say they both do that and then Duke wins ACC tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, which one of the 3 do you not give a number 1 seed to?
I have no idea. And, of course, you know, Kentucky, like I mentioned, still there. Gonzaga, who is a good team. And I hate to say this, but they're still in a lesser conference.
Mark Few would argue otherwise, but
sure. And when it comes to football, I'm all on the UCF bandwagon.
That's right.
I don't know. I just have more invested in this, I suppose. But speaking of that, as we sit right now, Gonzaga is number 1 in the rankings. Virginia 2, Duke 3, Kentucky 4, UNC 5. So right there, 3 ACC teams. I mean, my buddy and I even had a discussion of, let's say UNC wins out, beats Duke again, and then wins the ACC championship. I mean, are we talking an overall number 1 seed at that point?
Possibly. Possibly. I mean, that's very possible if that was to happen. Especially if they win ACC tournament. I mean, Virginia is going to have another loss thrown in there, too, in the ACC tournament. And let's say you beat Virginia somewhere in the ACC tournament en route to that, then you would have a win over Virginia. I would certainly think they would have a very strong case for a number 1 overall seed.
And I know these are a lot of what ifs.
Yeah, that's a lot of what ifs. They could lose all 3.
But it's not inconceivable.
No, it's not. Not the way they're playing. I mean, their jump shots have not even fallen consistently in 2 weeks, and they're still getting a lot of good wins.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing here. Houston is sitting at number 8.
I saw that.
They're 27-1. They've won 12 games in a row. Now, we're talking about Gonzaga being a lesser conference. Houston's the same way. Any chance Houston gets a number 1 seed?
No.
No, they don't have that stability.
I mean, who are their good wins and what's their RPI? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, who's Gonzaga's good wins though?
That's true. True.
I think Gonzaga's been in it and done it for so long that they're just accepted as one of the almost blue bloods of the sport.
They have been. They've got a pretty good last 10-year track record.
Exactly. But I don't know. I mean, 27-1.
That's impressive.
Still
I mean, just like the UCF in college football. I mean, like you said, I'm all about UCF in football, but I just haven't bought into Houston basketball yet.
However, this time next month, whoever wins will be able to say, we won. There won't be any of this, well, Houston says they're a national champion.
That's right.
No,
that's what
not
you
how
love
it works.
about the NCAA basketball, the best system in the world.
Absolutely. And, of course, now that we're in March, I mean, it's time for March Madness. So, of course, we'll be keeping up to date with all that as we move forward throughout March. Now, let's go to baseball, something that broke just Wednesday. Bryce Harper, unfortunately, Going to Philly.
In the National League East.
Yeah, we thought we were going to maybe get rid of him. We are not. He signed with the Phillies 13 years, $330 million.
He's not that good.
He's not. Now makes him the highest paid player in history, though.
Wow.
He beat Giancarlo Stanton's by like $30 million.
Wow. Yeah.
What do you think?
Congratulations to the Phillies.
Yeah.
They got a little bit of bitter pill to swallow because it's staying in the National League East, but I don't think he's enough. If he was enough by himself, Washington would already won one.
Exactly.
So good for him.
I look at who Philly has right now. I look at who Washington has right now.
Yep.
I think the Nationals are a better team without him.
I do too. And I think, I was reading an article the other day about before it broke, like the day before it broke, about Bryce Harper signing, and it was talking about Philly's contingency plans if Bryce Harper didn't sign. It was talking about the pitcher from
Keuchel.
Yeah, Keuchel, and it was talking about possibly Kimbrel or maybe both.
Yeah,
I think if you could add both of them,
yeah,
it maybe helps you more than Harper because the pitching and defense usually shows itself in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would like the Braves, for instance. If they'd have made this deal, I'd have been mad because I would have said, that's $330 million that you could have spread out and paid half a dozen guys.
That's right.
But I look at Philly and I say, you plug Bryce Harper into that lineup. Yeah, it's better lineup, but I don't know.
Without a doubt. I mean, he's a great player.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, great player.
I just don't know that it's any better than the lineup he was in with the Nats, and they missed the playoffs.
Yep. Come October, if the Phillies are in fourth place in the National League East, not going to the only one winning that deal is Bryce Harper.
Yeah. One other quick thing before we move on. Bryce Harper, young in his prime, 26.
Yep.
13 years though. That's a long
years
time.
Old. 39 years old. That will. I mean, he will be old.
Yeah.
God, I will be real old.
Yeah, I'll be old too.
Yeah, 13 years. That's a long time to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like Bobby Bonilla money right there. Still getting paid maybe after he's long gone.
Great reference. I love that. They're still paying Bobby Bonilla.
But still.
Till like 2050 or something. So I just the $330 million didn't surprise me. The 13 number surprised me a little bit.
That's a long time, yeah.
Yeah, because as we've seen with a lot of teams, the reason perhaps why we're not seeing these mega deals and it's taking so long is because of mistakes that other teams have made, like signing Albert Pujols till he's 45.
That's right. Albert Pujols would be on Social Security drawing millions.
Miguel Cabrera, who's still making 30-something million, and he's and not to say that these guys aren't Hall of Famers because they are, but their prime was 10 years ago.
But you're paying for their past, and it's not doing you any good now.
Exactly, and I think owners are figuring that out, and that's why one of the reasons why we're seeing this.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm sure we'll have more to say about Bryce Harper in the future.
Yep.
Going to the NFL, Kyler Murray is in the news again. Of course, the NFL Combine is going to be starting up here soon, but he kind of measured in, surprised some people. His hands were bigger. He weighed more. He's a little bit taller than people thought. What do you think? Well, I know we've talked before about him potentially being the number one pick. Does this almost solidify that?
In my opinion, he's certainly the number one quarterback.
Yeah.
And who's got the number one pick?
Cardinals.
Maybe. And there's a lot of talk about Rosen being gone.
And their owner came out this week and said, Josh Rosen is our quarterback for now.
Yeah.
And we all know what that means.
That's not exactly a vote of confidence.
Yeah, that writing is already on the wall. Yeah. Plus, Cliff Kingsbury, he is ready to install this air raid type offense that we see at the college level.
Which would suit Kyler Murray to a T.
Which is right up his alley.
So.
And obviously we've talked about it. The game is changing at the quarterback position. A guy that's 5'10", can play in the NFL now. And, of course, they compared his numbers to Russell Wilson, his height and all that. And he was just a little bit smaller, just a little bit lighter. But, at this point, why not?
He's a younger, stronger version of Drew Brees.
Yeah. And
more mobile.
And can run.
That's right, and way more mobile.
Exactly. I think at this point it's we see something like this happen all the time. It surprised me last year when the Browns took Baker number one,
and that worked out for them. That was a shocking move to me.
Working out just fine. So, from somebody who's just starting their career to someone who stepped away and is now stepping back, your Dallas Cowboys, Jason Witten coming out of the booth to come back for a year. What is up with this?
I don't know. You know what? Who will be real happy? And I'm a Cowboys homer. You've heard me on this show time and time again. Who will be real happy about this is the Monday Night Football fans because he got constantly bashed.
Oh, did he?
About his time in the booth. I don't think I watched a single Monday night game last year, but every week you could read something about people just trashing his performance on Monday Night Football.
He just wasn't very good at it.
I guess. I didn't watch any of them, but I heard he wasn't very good. I heard he wasn't very good at it, and I think what he will provide, it was a 1-year deal for $3.5 million, which by today's standards is peanuts.
Yes.
And so what he will provide is no sense of urgency for Dallas to go after a tight end in the draft, and they got 2 young tight ends last year. I think what this deal does is they're counting Witten to be more of a mentor role.
Okay.
And try and bring these 2 tight ends along.
I mean, I know he just took a year off, but Witten still has something in the tank, right? You think?
Well, that's funny. I said right when he retired, I didn't know how much he had left. He had 63 catches the last year he played, but it's only for 500-something yards.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I hope he does. I mean, Antonio Gates came out. Antonio Gates said this past year in San Diego he had the most fun he's ever had. He caught like 28 passes for 300 yards. And statistically, not a great season, but he's talking about he accepted his lesser role and had a ball. If Witten can do the same thing, because I think he is going to have to give way to these younger guys a little bit.
Yeah. And I would imagine it can be difficult for some of these guys to step aside like that.
Yeah.
But we see, I mean, I don't like the Cowboys one bit,
I
but
know.
Jason Witten's a class act.
Yeah, he is.
First ballot Hall of Famer. But Larry Fitzgerald comes to mind, a
That's
guy
right.
that's been top-notch his whole career, stays out of trouble.
Yep.
They asked him to move to the slot later on in his career. He said, absolutely. Still had a 1,000-yard season.
That's right.
As a Redskins fan, I hope this doesn't work out.
I'm sure.
As a sports fan, I'm actually wishing Jason Witten some luck. It'll be interesting to see, though, if he goes, how hard he can go. Because how old is he?
30. He'll be 37 this season,
Right,
which is old for a tight end.
Yeah, he's basically my age, so that's ancient for football.
For football, yeah.
You know what else? I'm curious to see who will replace him in the Monday Night Football booth, because now we went from John Gruden being there for 10 years or whatever
And
to Witten and now somebody new.
You know a name I heard
Who's that?
already this week is Greg Olson.
Oh,
But
what does that mean, though?
But Ron Rivera says it's not going to. Ron Rivera says he expects Olson back. That Olson's telling him he's still dedicated to football and wants to come back and prove that he can be the Olson from the 2014 to 2016 years when he was 1,000 yards a year.
That'd be great.
So Olson's a name I heard, but I don't think that's going to happen. He said by all accounts he's playing, so I don't know what they have in mind.
I'm sure that would probably surprise some Panthers fans
Oh,
if he
yeah.
just decided to retire out of the blue.
Yeah, I think so.
I haven't heard any names. I'm not going to try to venture one. Just want to say that my services are
That's
available.
right. I am available for that job. You can pay me a third of what you paid Witten last year.
You could take his salary and we'll split it.
That's right.
How about that?
That's right.
And
Perfect.
we'll both do Monday
That's
Night
right.
Football with
That's right.
who else? Mike Tirico,
That's
whoever
right.
it is up there.
Guarantee you, if the analysts were right, we won't be any worse.
That's right. If the only way to go is up, then
That's right.
We've got you. And then one more thing here regarding football. The also coming up besides the combine is going to be the draft in April, which is right around the corner.
That's
now.
amazing. It's almost here.
It is almost here. So last year, the New York Jets traded up, took Sam Darnold to be the quarterback of the future. Of course, we'll see how that works out. This year, they're looking to deal the number 3 pick for a draft haul.
Yeah.
So this kind of changed the philosophy just a year later. What do you think?
Well, if it works, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
But I think teams that would be willing to give up so much are not as many as they used to be.
Yeah.
Like when Dallas made their steal, the great steal in the early 90s to get all their draft picks, you don't see teams as readily doing that. Now, the Redskins did it to get RG3. The Browns did it a few years ago to move up and get somebody, but you just don't see a lot of people willing to give up, bank the future on one draft pick.
Yeah. And I've already talked about how I think unless the Cardinals want to try and take Kyler Murray number 1, I say that they should think about trading their pick for some, because just like the Jets, the Cardinals and the Jets,
Need more than one, please.
they need players
Yep.
to fill in spots on the roster, and this is the way to do it. But I'm with you. I mean, you wonder like who's going to want to trade up,
Yep.
but. As we see teams jockeying for position, the higher Kyler Murray's name gets up there.
Yeah.
Maybe a team says, "Well, we got to jump somebody if we want to try to get a quarterback."
That draft day buzz does some weird things, man.
It does.
People start pulling the trigger.
Something
So you never know.
Something gets in the air.
Yeah.
So, of course, we'll have to what we did last year, and we'll bring you into this. We did our own draft special.
Oh, cool.
We made a list.
Love
and
it.
We didn't do any trades or any of that.
Okay.
Just if it went 1 through 30, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. But that'll be fun this year as well.
Right.
So stay tuned
All
for
right.
that.
Sounds good.
Now let's head to our big impacts of the week. Of course, brought to you by Richmond Community College, whose motto is "Local College, Big Impact." Who you got?
Got Alex Anderson and Hunter Paris. The Raider baseball team had their opening game this week. They started the season 1-0 under Coach Ricky Young, and they combined for a 3-0 shutout victory over my Bearcats.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
14 Ks.
That's right, 14. That's amazing. That's a good job.
Now, see, I remember the days when Richmond versus Anson was the rivalry.
That's right. That was a marquee game
Yes,
in
yes.
the conference.
Matter of fact, this is going to sound bad, I didn't even realize we still played Anson County because we played them
Yep.
We played them in conference when I was there.
That's right. They were in the same conference for years.
Yeah.
And it was a good conference matchup. Even back when I was in high school, Kim Cowser was a Bearcat coach, and that was a marquee matchup with the Raiders. Matter of fact, a lot of the Bearcat players came over and played the old Post 49 baseball.
Yeah, Legion Ball.
Legion Ball.
I did that too.
So that's a lot of good tradition with Anson Richmond baseball.
Absolutely.
I'm glad they still play.
Dion and I were talking on the wrap up this week about baseball, and we were talking about how there's so many seniors on there. Of course, both those guys are two of those seniors. But we talked with Ricky Young, the head coach, a couple of weeks ago on another wrap-up show, and he was talking about how, they lost Drew Love and Jonathan Lee, Trey Watkins, 3 studs on the mound.
Great players.
And I asked him, well, what's the plan pitching-wise? And he said they're going to go by committee. Well, it sounds like, I said on the wrap-up, somebody's going to have to step up. It seems like we had 2 guys step up automatically.
Committee of 2 already right there.
Absolutely.
And Hunter pitched some last year, and so did Alex. I've gone to quite a few Raider baseball games, and they've got some talent still on the mound.
They do. And with 12 seniors, I expect some big things this year.
Ricky Young's always got them prepared. They are maybe the most prepared team ever.
Yep. My big impact for this week is a young lady by the name of Tony Harris. I don't know if you saw this, but she became the first female football player at a skill position to sign a letter of intent.
Wow, congratulations.
Now, it's at Central Methodist University in Missouri, so obviously it's not Alabama.
Yeah, we won't see her play probably. But
No, not unless you're an alumni.
That's right. That's right.
But, I mean, that's a big deal, isn't it?
That's awesome, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I say all that to say this, and I might hurt some people's feelings here, and you don't have to agree with me.
Okay.
But I don't ever think we'll see a female play anything above this level.
That would be hard to see.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. I mean, the fact of the matter is they're just not as big and strong.
Exactly. And it is what it is.
That's
and,
right.
Look, there's people out there that'll say, oh, that's sexist, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Fine. If it is, then write me. My email is maharrelson@yahoo.com. But it is what it is.
That's
I
right.
mean, it's how we
we
were built. But
up through middle school, you can see that. I mean, there's some I can name by name that I've seen be dominant athletes up through middle school and stuff.
Yeah.
But once you get a certain age and the body starts changing, you get older and the guys mature, it's just they're not as big and strong.
I would even go as far to say that we could see a female in the NBA at some point. We could see a female in Major League Baseball. But those are just too, compared to football, it's just too violent.
That's right.
I just don't ever see it happening.
That's tough.
Yeah, but anyway, congratulations to her.
That's awesome.
Up until that point, it was just I think a couple of girls had signed as kickers.
Yeah, that's right.
Which maybe
right.
at another level we could see a female be a kicker. Anyway, let's finish that up and head to Love It or Hate It.
Love this segment.
Yes, let's start with Johnny Football. In the news, it's never good. Johnny Football got released from the Canadian Football League, the Montreal Alouettes. Not only did Montreal say, we got to cut you, man, but the CFL said, you can't sign with anybody else.
Wow.
Love it or hate it?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love Johnny Football. Dallas is waiting. Jerry Jones will take I'm kidding. God, Jerry Jones don't sign him. I mean, just amazing. He just can't keep it together.
Right? I'm curious to know what he did. I know he's been in trouble. It seems like he's a party and whatever it is. It doesn't seem like he's ever going to grow up.
No.
But man, you got to get barred
Banned from a whole league.
To get barred from the CFL.
Awesome. The AAF, that's right. Alliance of American Football will probably take you.
Yeah, and I've read that he's maybe interested in that, but it's going to be the same circumstances, isn't it? Now, it said this now. Look, if you get in trouble in Canada, you can get in trouble in America.
That's right, when nobody pays attention to what you're doing.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, people still love Johnny Football. Right. He's a legend down in College Station.
That's right, he is.
I just find it funny. I mean, let me ask you this real quick before we move on. Is Johnny's career over?
No.
You think he'll book on somewhere?
Somebody will get. He's 26.
Just name recognition.
Yep, somebody will get. I was kidding, but the AAF will probably sign him immediately.
Probably
for name recognition.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but somebody will give him a shot.
All right.
And unless it comes out that he was a domestic violence or something, because we don't know what he did.
Yeah, and I've seen. I don't know this to be true, but I've seen rumors that has something to do with it. That when he signed his contract, there were stipulations built in that said he had to stay out of trouble for certain things, and obviously he broke that part of the contract, and they said, well, you're out, and you're out of the whole league now.
Yep.
So,
okay. Now, if there's something like that, he could be done. I mean, look at Ray Rice. I mean, if something like that,
maybe. I don't know. Look at Kareem Hunt.
That's right. True. So
anyway, here's another funny one. Indiana University of Pennsylvania went to go play a basketball game. Their manager forgot their uniforms. So they were forced to wear the other team's host uniforms.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's creative right there.
I love it,
Did
too.
they win or lose?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I love it, too, although I wonder, like, how were they able to keep track of it?
Yeah, I wonder if the manager got a job.
Probably not. Although, you know what? It's probably difficult to find someone that's willing to be the manager for Indiana University
That's right.
of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Hoosiers here.
No, not talking about the Hoosiers, not even talking about Penn.
That's right.
So it's like IU Pui or
That's
whatever
right.
you call it. Moving forward, Arthur Blank, the not manager, owner of the Falcons, he bought himself a $180 million super yacht that he named Dreamboat. Now, you can see how I spelled it out here. It's Dream, but the AMB is capitalized for his initials in the middle. So I'm going to ask you love it or hate it, but love it or hate it in terms of football players are all the time asking for more guaranteed money, and owners refuse to do it. Yet here is he, your boy Jerry Jones, my guy Daniel Snyder, buying these outrageous yachts. Love it or hate it?
I hate it. If your message on the other end is we don't want to pay the players.
Yeah.
Now, if he's an owner that wants to pay his players, then at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with him doing it. But if you're gonna live that lifestyle, then you should, by all means, not be against paying your players.
I agree 100%. I love it in terms of, look, Arthur Blank worked hard for his money.
Right.
If he wants to drop $180 million, I mean, first of all, just give me $1 million. He won't miss it, obviously.
Right.
But if he wants to drop that much money on a boat, have at it. However, it just seems like football players, the most, we just got to talking about how violent football is out of all the other sports, and it's yet the only one that doesn't have guaranteed money. You know? Or you have guaranteed money, but it's not for the full contract.
And it's you're starting to see a little bit of shift in that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, because football is the one sport where their life expectancy as far as a career is way shorter than anybody else. So if anybody's going to go out there and earn it for what they have to pay for afterwards physically, they do.
And we saw Kirk Cousins. I think he's the first one to get a fully guaranteed contract. More than likely, it'll start with quarterbacks, and then maybe we'll have the trickle-down effect.
That's right.
We'll have to wait and see. So let's move to basketball. The NBA has officially proposed lowering the draft age from 19 to 18. Love it or hate it?
I love it. But I know that's probably shocks you that I said that.
It does. Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
It's just a matter of time before it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
You know, then we're not sitting here having this debate about Zion Williamson's every year.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of fun to have it. The whole reason for the rule was a good intent, because you had all these guys coming out of high school and you had these shark agents in their ear telling them they were ready and they were not, and you had these guys going by the wayside and couldn't play anymore because they didn't latch on, and then they'd given up their eligibility because they hired an agent.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man.
I say you start right there, where if you come out and, first of all, I hate this.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't understand why they don't just go ahead and just let them come out of high school again like it used to be. But with that being said,
well, I thought that's what that did. That's why.
No. This just means that they just lowered the age,
Okay.
not still like. So, for instance, if you're from overseas, you can come in at 18 instead of 19.
Okay.
Something like
Gotcha.
that. As far as those here on stateside, though, I just don't understand why they don't just go back to the way it was, with the exception of what you're just talking about, where you could change it, where if you hire an agent and then you're out of the league, perhaps you have the ability to get your eligibility back. If it's not, if you're not like 30,
Yeah, right. If you're an 18-year-old kid who doesn't, who some agent says you're going to make it and you don't, I think that's, then you should have the option, I think, to go somewhere.
Michael Olowokandi always comes to mind when I think of this. A guy that was 18, was the number one pick. I think he went to the T-Wolves. He was out of the league in like 5 years. If he had a chance to go somewhere else and play, I mean, you could always go to Europe or whatever, but if he had a place to play here, even if it was the G League, I just think it would have been beneficial. Plus, he has name recognition, or he did. I don't even know where he is now. He could be under a bridge somewhere for all I know. But anyway, moving forward here. So, talking about football again, the Carolina Panthers have said their offseason plans don't include trying to sign or draft any kind of quarterbacks, because Cam's okay, apparently. Love it or hate it.
Surprisingly, I love this.
All right.
If that's true, I saw the same report. If that's true and he's ready, then by all means, he's your starting quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. He's obviously your franchise. Although I know we maybe we talked last week about how there was some rumblings that Colin Kaepernick could potentially be in Carolina.
Yeah, his agent had mentioned, or his lawyer had mentioned had mentioned that would be a good spot for him.
I mean, I'm with you. If Cam's healthy, he's ready to go, you go with Cam.
Yep.
I've talked about this so many times with Jeremy, though. The Panthers need to be careful with Cam moving forward because he's only getting older. He cannot continue to jump out of the pocket and get slammed around. He's got to learn to be a pocket passer.
He's not 22.
No.
He's not 20. That's what they have to. And I think Norv Turner, hopefully, now they started the year 6-2 last year.
Yeah.
Before he started having his issues that nobody really knew about. And I think Norv Turner I still think, although he's old, I think he's a great offensive mind, and I think he will find a way to utilize Cam and get the most out of him without getting him abused, I hope.
Yeah, and that sounds great. The problem is you have to get out of Cam's head to take off.
That's right. Some of that's built in because that's what he's always done.
Yeah, that's his instinct is the pocket collapses, take off. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't do that. He shouldn't sit in the pocket and take sacks. Yeah. But there's a lot of times
where a fine line
where he could take 3 steps to the left and still pass. Instead, he takes off and he gets slammed around.
That's right.
So I don't know. I guess they'll have to make sure he doesn't doesn't get knocked out or something.
And they could remedy both situations by drafting some decent offensive linemen.
That too. Yeah, absolutely. A couple more here. NBA again. Dirk Nowitzki. I don't think he's ever going to retire. He's actually pondering one more year next year. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Love it or hate it.
Hate it.
Yeah.
And I'm all for players staying as long as they want, as long as the team will sign you. But let's don't do the Brett Favre thing.
Yeah. Are we venturing into that?
Yeah. Dude, it's clear if you watch Dirk play now, he's not mobile.
Right.
He's not really a help at all on defense, and he's not really a help at all on offense anymore.
Yeah. I think it's time for him to hand the keys over to Luka Doncic.
That's right.
Because the way that kid's playing this year.
That trade they made to get him.
Yeah, it's the perfect time. Dirk could be on his way out. Luka's now in his way in. I agree. I think you should probably call it quits. Look, you got nothing else to play for. He's won a championship.
That's right.
He played for a championship.
No, he won one.
Did they win one?
Yeah, he won one
against Miami.
I think so. In 11, I think it was. They won one.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So he's got a championship, multiple All-Stars. He may have even been an MVP there. Hall of Famer. Just right off into the sunset.
That's right.
And Dallas loves
had a great All-Star game to finish his career, 3 for 3 from the three-point line.
He's not even born in America, but he could run for mayor in Dallas and win.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
2 more here. Baseball, though. Let's end with baseball. Nolan Arenado agreed to a big deal himself. He signed an 8-year, $260 million contract. Love it or hate it?
Love it. Go get the money if you can.
Yeah. And why wouldn't you play in Colorado? And
That's right. Oh, my gosh, where you can hit the ball and it travels 8 miles.
Yeah. Arenado will eventually be a Hall of Famer. Now, there might be some that say he doesn't deserve it because his numbers will be inflated. But the way, if your career is going to be there, look at Todd Helton. Matter of fact, is Helton in the Hall of Fame?
I'm not sure.
He should be.
I'm not sure. Yep, he should.
And then finally, we talked about Bryce Harper signing with the Phillies. Automatically, numbers came out in Vegas. He's now favored to win the National League MVP with Philly. Love it or hate it?
Hate it.
Yeah, I hate it.
I totally disagree with that.
Just because
I'll take the field and Bryce. I'll take the field against Bryce Harper.
Like I'm tripping over my words because I don't even know where to start with this. Just because you stuck him in a different lineup doesn't mean that he just all of a sudden became the favorite. I know he had a lot of home runs, had a lot of RBIs, but last year he batted like 250.
Yeah, he's not even in the top 5 players. That probably makes some people mad. He's probably not in the top 5 players in the National League.
Counting pitchers, yeah, you can make that argument. I would. To me, I'd rather have Arenado.
Me too.
Because you get defense.
That's right.
You get defense, Gold Glove defense, and you get a guy that hustles.
And a higher average. Yeah. And somebody who we never heard of any drama with teammates.
Yeah, and I know that us being Braves fans, people would say,
right.
well,
we're biased.
We're being biased. But if you ask anybody except for National fans, and I bet if you ask them that today,
that's right,
they might say the same thing.
That's right.
He's a little bit of an enigma.
That's right.
Gets in fights with his teammates.
That's right.
And gets in, and doesn't run fly balls out.
That's right. Definitely. I think he's got prima donna written all over.
He does.
And I'm sure $330 million is not going to help that.
I was about to say, whiffing all that millions of dollars is not going to bring
that.
Not going to bring that down at all. So that's going to do it for another edition of the Rundown. Of course, appreciate everybody tuning in. I don't know if you saw this. I want to announce it. We announced it on the wrap up. We finally hit 400 likes on Facebook.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Awesome.
So we appreciate everybody that liked, shared, commented. Continue to do that.
That's right.
Tell all your friends. We got a bunch of shows here for you to watch. All kinds of polls.
Great programming.
Yeah. Analysis, all that stuff. So once again, we appreciate everybody hitting us up on social media. So that's Bram Falk. I'm Matt Helson. We'll see you right back here next week for another Rundown.